Everyone, and welcome to our third live of this month's theme, our third live of 2021 as well. We are looking at visions and goals. I'm just going to give it a couple of seconds to see if we get anyone tuned in so we can have a little bit of engagement and start to dive deeper into visions and goals. So we previously I joined you for the first opening session of 2021, and we looked at the importance of setting ourselves a vision, forgetting about resolutions, and starting to understand the difference between visions and goals and how we can start to draft an effective vision statement. Last week, we had Adele jump live with amazing wisdom, sharing how and why we should be setting intentions and the importance of setting intentions. And today I'm here to discuss the importance of having a strategy behind your vision and your goals in order to make progress and build something that is long lasting. So today is all about planning, it's all about strategy and how we can start to get into that strategic mind to start to make some serious progress towards our goals. So Vijaya's tuned in. Vijaya said hello. It's wonderful to see you here, Vijaya. Priya's tuned in. Thank you so much for being here. Just pop up some of the comments on the screen. How are you guys? Are you well? So today is looking at strategy. So the first question I have, just to open up a bit of discussion, is what do we think the difference between a plan and a strategy is? And we're going to look at the importance of why we need to have a strategy, and then I'm going to share 7 tips of how we can start to get into that strategic mind to start to make some serious progress towards what it is we want to achieve, and why we need to turn our plans into a strategy. So the first question is, hey Frank, wonderful to see you here. Wonderful to see you here, Paula, as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. Shannon, it's lovely to see you here. It's fantastic to have the family together and to really discuss a really great topic. Karen, it's wonderful to see you here as well. Lots of love coming through, lots of love being sent amongst each other. It's wonderful to see you all connecting. Daniel, thank you so much for being here. It's wonderful to see you all. Vijay says, how are you doing, Paul? I'm doing fantastic. I really love these sessions and I'm looking forward to having a good discussion with you guys on the difference between planning and strategy and why it's important for us to start to build a strategy behind what it is we want to set out. So what is the difference between a plan and a strategy? I would love to hear your thoughts on this. So Paul Adams just says, a plan is an idea of what you want and a strategy is how you get it done. Paula, you've got those abs on your mind. So a plan, I'm going to read that again. A plan is an idea of what you want and a strategy is how you get it done. You're on the right lines there, Paula. There's a little bit more to it. Karen says, plan is something you want to do. Strategy is how you get it done. So similar perspectives coming through from Paula and Karen there. So the question I've got is, can you not get your actions done through a plan? So a plan of action. What does everybody else think? What's the difference between a plan and a strategy? So Karen and Paula are on the right lines. So we're going to be talking about planning what we want to do, but also looking at how we get that done too. There's a little bit more depth and detail to what a strategy is, because we can also get to where we want through a plan. It's a good question to think about. So how many people have a plan here or strategy for the vision or the goal? The next question. Hey Dale, it's wonderful to see you tune in as well. Thank you so much for being here. So just the question we've asked is, what is the difference between a plan and a strategy? And also, which one do you have in place for your vision or your goals right now? Do you have a plan? Do you have a strategy? Vijay says, strategy is much bigger than a plan. It looks at all influencing factors. You're getting deeper into what a strategy is there, Vijay. That's fantastic. It is much bigger than a plan. We're going to look at the difference between plan and strategy, a few things that highlight the elements, what make a strategy different from a plan. And then we're going to look at how we can change our perspective when we look at visions and goals, and then look at 7 tips on how we can start to get into that strategic mind. or that strategic mindset. Canvas has the tools that you need to get the plan sorted. So, yep, that forms part of a strategy as well. But also asking yourself the questions, what tools do I have? How do I find those tools? Who can I have to help me to borrow those tools? Where's the learning come from? This is all being in that strategic mindset where you're asking those constant questions behind what you're setting in terms of your plan and your actions. Daniel Hillman says a strategy helps you stick to your plan. That's a good thought, good perspective. Shona says, I do on my goals to get in shape. That's fantastic. Do you have a plan or a strategy for that? She says she's got both. Sorry, I just seen that comment come through. That's fantastic. Adele's view is strategy is the route and manner how you will achieve your plan. I love that, Adele. We're getting closer to the definition, the difference between strategy and plan. Vijay says strategy is like a blueprint, layout, or design. Plan is breaking down that blueprint into deeper action items with ETAs. Estimated time. Don't know what the A stands for, but I forgot what the A stands for. But yeah, and so that's a good point to note. So you're looking at it differently as you're creating that blueprint for a strategy, and then you're having mini plans underneath your strategy. That's also fantastic. And they can interchange. You can start with a plan, build a strategy into your plan, or you can start with a strategy and start to bring plans from your strategy. It's an interesting topic to talk about. But the way I like to explain it in the simplest of terms, so has anybody here played with Lego or building blocks as a child? Let me know if you've ever played with Lego or building blocks when you're younger, and you set yourself that challenge with your brother or your friend or your sister or whoever you're playing with, and it's who can build the biggest tower. Who's ever played that game as a kid with building blocks and Legos? Who's ever played that game as an adult? You might still have played that game recently, if you've got children in your family and you're playing building blocks with them. Who's played with Lego and had that goal? So we'll look at the goal vision here to build the biggest tower. That's the challenge. And everyone thinks I'm going nuts because I'm talking about Lego, but there's a reason why I'm talking about it. It's the simplest way to explain the difference between a strategy and a plan. Who's played with Lego? Don't leave me on my own here. I'm not the only one that has played that game where we have to build the biggest tower. So the comments are coming through a bit delayed. So Shannon says, I love Legos. Karen saying, yep. Daniel says, I have. Absolutely did. I played a lot, even more when my son was young. That's fantastic. So we've all played with Lego. We've all had that goal or vision to build the biggest tower. So how many of us, when building that tower, just put block after block after block after block after block after block after block? So a plan there was just to put block after block and build this big tower so it came to a height. But then when it got too big, it toppled over. Who's taking that approach? So we just put action, 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 block, 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 block. It gets too big and then it topples over. Karen Fowler says, do it with Jenga, hoping to get the highest height. Exactly, that's good. Jenga blocks can do the same as well. Anything we can use to build the highest tower. So how many of us fell into the trap of trying that plan? Brick, 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 and then it toppled over. But how many of us took a more strategic approach? So there's a plan that we had to build that block. It got to a point where it was high and then it toppled. How many of us took a more strategic approach to how we built that tower by laying the foundations, spending time on laying those foundations, and then starting to build brick by brick slowly, making sure it was steady and stable so it didn't topple over? So Shannon says, with Legos today, strategy is essential need. It really is, the way you can build stuff. But it's the same with our visions and our goals. So when we look at a plan, we can create a plan of action, but then we can just take action after action after action after action and not take that time to reflect or think or have a bit of foresight on what might happen when we start to do that action. So strategy is looking a bit more to the future and getting to a bit more of a curious mind and an inquisitive mind. We'll talk about this a little bit later on, but it's thinking and it's spending time in your plan and your preparation in order to build something that's more resilient, rather than just listing a plan of actions that you need to do and then going through and following that plan. So a plan tends to be a list of actions or an action plan that we're going to follow to get to where we want. But strategy is more an art of planning with having a long-term aim. So we're aiming for something long-term when we put in a strategy. We're aiming to build something that is resilient. It's not just about getting to that destination. It's about thinking about how we are going to build something that's long-lasting, that's going to work. So I hope that makes sense with the Lego blocks. It's just the easiest way, but you can apply this to your vision. So if somebody wants to share a goal or vision or what they're working on, then we can start to think about how you can look at the difference between a strategy and a plan. Adele, that flops. You need to look at methods, strategies needed for the plan to succeed. So yeah, the strategy is needed for a plan to succeed, for it to last. So the first difference between a plan and a strategy is a plan is generally short-term or short-sighted, where a strategy always has a long-term aim and it's looking at the end results. So it's more of a long game when we look at a strategy. The second important point to note between the difference between a plan and a strategy, and this is probably the most important point to take away today, is a plan can be very fixed and rigid, and a strategy is adaptable. So with a strategy, we adapt our plan. After we've taken one action, we think, we reflect, we think what the next action is. So we have a draft plan, a skeleton plan, but at each point on that plan, we think and change and adapt our plan based on what's happened from the action we've already taken. So a strategy is very adaptable. When we have that strategic mind, when we're thinking about strategy, we can adapt and we don't just stick to the one plan or one routine or one thing that we want. With a plan, we can tend to use it very rigidly and just stick to that plan. We can start to become narrow-sighted and only focus on one way to get to where we want to be. So it's very fixed, and a strategy can be very adaptable. Going back to the comments, Daniel says, mine was always falling over. And it does. If you keep building it, it's just going to fall over. But when you start to build some strong foundations, and it'll take you a bit longer to think about those foundations and to build that at the start. But when you put so much time in, we're going to look at this in a different perspective of how we can look at visions and goals, so we can start to build those strong foundations. When it topples over, you don't have to start from scratch. So it's very important to build a strategy, because if you're taking that route where you're just doing action after action and action after action, and then something happens and knocks your tower over, you have to start again. But if you're building something strong and you've got strong foundations and you spent your time and energy into building that preparation piece and put your time into the preparation, when you start to build, if something comes to try and knock it over, it might take off a few bricks, it might knock half of it, but you're never going to be starting from the bottom again, because you built those strong foundations. So the reason why we need to get into looking at strategy is so we can start to spend time in our planning and preparation. Remember, strategy is about the art of planning and thinking long term and having that long term vision and that aim, and building those strong foundations so we keep and build resilience in what it is we're trying to achieve. Paula says this would be so much better on a Zoom call. Now, these discussions would be good on Zoom calls, and we could talk about these. So one of the things we're thinking about doing, it was mentioned after what we did at Christmas. So sorry, I don't want to get off topic here, but I think it's a good point that Paula mentioned, is maybe having some discussion sessions on Zoom. So I know we've got our Hum and Nest, which is very social and relaxed, but actually having maybe a Zoom call every 2 weeks, or maybe once a month. So we are having a Zoom call at the end of the month where we're looking at visions. We're going to connect with Bashani, do a vision board, and we can talk about and answer any questions that you have and discuss these topics in that Zoom call. But maybe every 2 weeks or maybe once a month, we can really start to get together on Zoom as well, in addition to these lives, and have those conversations. Because then we can start to look at people's strategies or plans and look at how we can start to adapt each other's and start to work on, make it more of a personal approach, I think. So the other difference between a plan, so Shannon says, or we decide if we need to change our strategy for succeeding in our goals and visions. Yep, so we can change our strategy at any point. So a strategy is adaptable. A plan, we tend to stick to it. It's tend to be very rigid. And if it's not the right plan, another thing with the difference between the plan and a strategy and having it fixed and rigid is we're more likely to give up if we just have a plan that we stick to and we fail, or we miss an action, or it hasn't got us to what we wanted to achieve. We can more likely to give up. But if we've got a strategy, then we can look at different ways, different options. And that's the other difference I was just about to mention between a plan and a strategy. Generally, a plan is one route, one focus. But when you put time into your strategy before you start to set those actions, so you think about strategy, you think about what you're going to be doing before you do it. You don't just list an action and then follow it. With a strategy, you think of multiple options on how you can reach or achieve what you want to achieve. So you look at options A, B, C, and D. You don't just stick to one option of planning. So the other difference between a plan and a strategy, with a strategy, you have multiple options. With a plan, you just have one option and one route. So if you think about climbing a mountain, let's say your mission is to climb and get to the top of a mountain, your plan might be, I'm going to walk. Your plan might be, I'm going to drive halfway, and then walk the rest. Or maybe I'm going to get a cable car half the way, then walk. I'm going to get a cable car all the way to the top. So you can get that action. But then let's say your plan is to walk. You need to start to think about your strategy. Have you got enough water? Have you got enough food? Have you got, start to plan that whole trip in a way that's strategic, but don't be too attached to one route. You might find a quicker way, shorter way. You might get a bit lost on the way. You might encounter obstacles. So you need to start to think about what issues you might encounter on that journey in order to start to think about a strategy rather than just a plan. Paula says, it's kind of like Jenga. Things change, you have to adapt, but you have to really have a solid foundation in the bottom piece so that every single piece on top can be structured. Now, definitely, it's all about having that solid foundation. And lots of us can forget to put in that strong preparation, that strong foundation. And then we just go and we hit our action, we hit the plan that we think is the right plan without giving it thought. And then we can be disappointed because we've set ourselves expectations from those actions that we're setting out to achieve. It's just me, how I learn. And that's fantastic. And we can look to do that. I think it would be good to get together. So we've got our study sessions as well on Saturday. We kind of have these discussions in our study sessions, and we can bring, it's led by what comes from the book, but we could look to put on an extra Zoom call a month just to talk about the whole topic in general. Vijay says, I've never thought of a strategy for my personal goals. Now, lots of people don't think about strategies for their goals. For example, people trying to get fit. Okay, let's look at the difference between a plan and a strategy when you're trying to get fit. People can set a plan to go to the gym 3 times a week. So, and it's good what we're going through in the world right now, because it can teach us and force us to start to be strategic and start to think of different ways in which we do things. So you could say, I want to get back into fitness. I want to get a nice body, whatever it is you want to achieve. I want to feel healthy. I want to get back into fitness. And you can set yourself a plan. I'm going to go to the gym 3 days a week. Okay, that's a plan. Fantastic. You go 3 days a week, you're going to get results. But what happens if something comes along and the gym's closed? You're going to miss that day. Like now, the pandemic's come along, the gyms are closed. What's your next plan? Have you thought about if you can't make it to the gym? Have you considered other ways in which you can get fit that might be more enjoyable, that might be more engaged, get you more engaged in? So, for example, I used to hate going to the gym. And one of the things I found was martial arts. So my fitness was all through my martial arts and doing Wing Chun 3 times a week. So I did something different. I thought different strategies. I don't force myself to do something I don't enjoy. So we need to start to look at different options and different things we can do for our goals. A lot of the time, our first option, our first plan it could be successful. It's going to be successful, but it's always good to have backup plans, B, C, and D, so you're never falling back and starting from scratch. Delta's question, can plan lead to a fixed mindset and strategy be more open to a growth mindset? So yeah, exactly. A plan is more of a fixed mindset. It can lead to a fixed mindset if you're so fixed to this one route, this one way to do something, where a strategy is more focused on your growth mindset because you look at alternative routes and how you can get there. So generally, in its simplest terms, a strategy is an adaptable path to get us to where we want to go. And that adaptability is key for a strategy. And there's also elements I've mentioned, we need to reflect on the action that we've taken. We need to think about the action that we're going to take before we take it. Joe says, yes, we often use that for traveling. Paul says, I know what my strengths and weaknesses are, so I need to get people on board that can help me achieve my goals or plans. That's my strategy. So I don't know, can I mention your goal, Paula, in here? I don't like to bring people's personal things into this space without their permission. Just to give another example of a plan and a strategy. You start to think about things that might happen. So you might, I'll wait to see if Paula lets me share her goal, and we can talk about that as well. If anybody wants to share what they're working on, we can look at the difference between a plan and a strategy for your goal, and we can start to, and we're going to talk about how you get into that strategic mindset. And I'll start to ask you some strategic questions you can think about so you can build on your plan to start to create a strategy. So Vijay says, I guess plan and strategy are two stages of planning. I don't think having a plan leads to a fixed mindset. So it can lead to a fixed mindset. It doesn't always, but if you have set, so for example, using that gym example, if you said you're going to go to the gym 3 times a week, but you cannot get to the gym because your business has sent you off on a different business meeting and you're a different part of the country, or you've had to work, or you're feeling a little bit ill, a bit sick, or the pandemic's come and the gym's closed, then, you know, if you, I've lost a bit track of what I was saying there. It doesn't lead to a fixed mindset. So, and if you're so stuck on that plan and that's the only way that you can get fit, then you're entering that fixed mindset, because there's other ways in which you can get fit. You know, a lot of people who are staying in shape and staying fit and healthy right now have learned to adopt a stay-at-home workout, how they can work out at home, finding that space. So sometimes it can lead us to a fixed mindset, but not all the time. We just need to be able to adapt when something goes wrong. We need to look at a different route. Shannon says, exactly, Paul, if we're not enjoying what we're doing, we won't continue. That's another key point. We need to enjoy what we're doing, or we're more likely to give up. And as Einstein said, there's no such thing as failure. The only time we fail is when we give up. Vijay says we need to strategize overall and plan details. Yep, no, we do. So I like the perspective you're coming from strategy and planning. You're seeing the overall blueprint, as you mentioned earlier on, as your strategy, and you have plans underneath that strategy, which is fantastic. It's really great to look at strategy and plan that way, but just don't get attached to the plan and the details that you have. If it isn't working or things aren't going quite right, you need to learn to be adaptable and change what you're doing. And we talked about this briefly on the webinar on yesterday, when we looked at the businesses that are succeeding right now are those that are changing the way they do things. They've entered into that strategic mind and starting to look at different ways in which they can do their business, given the environment that's been created by the pandemic right now. Paula says, yes, sorry, the comments are coming through late. So Paula is working on, she's looking to publish a book at the end of this year. So she's got a title, she's got a bit of a plan in place. So when you plan is to write a book, and your plan might be to do a chapter a month or write the structure for your chapter. But when you start to look at a strategy, you need to look at, okay, how many words can I realistically write a day? What's going to be my daily tasks and my little steps towards getting to where I want to be? What happens if something comes in and I cannot do that month? Let's say something happens and I haven't got the energy, or I can't focus on doing what I need to do that month. What am I going to do? How am I going to make up for that? So when I have energy, am I going to do more words? When I have less energy, am I going to do less words? Am I going to give myself that space, that break? Where can I get the help and support from people? Am I going to think about, am I going to give my whole book to a person when it's finished to edit or proofread or whatever you want, to check for grammar and all that sort of stuff? Or am I going to give it chapter by chapter? So you're thinking about all these questions so you can start to build a strategy into your plan. So you can have a plan just to write a chapter a month, a few words a month, but start to think about if you can achieve that and who you can get to help and support you, and how you're going to get that from your mind into that physical book in your hands. You can use my goal too if you need another. So Karen is working on, so I'll share Karen's goal as well. So Karen's working on setting up a good news channel. She wants to share good news from all over the globe. She wants to bring kindness, positivity through media, and really share positive stories. So Karen, you could have a plan, for example, to, have one story shared a month or one story shared a week. But then you need to start to think about how that story is going to be shared, how you're going to get that story. You need to go deeper into your planning. You need to look at what happens if you can't get a story that month. What are you going to do? How are you going to fill that? Are you going to look at trying to get as many stories as you can in 1 month and then publish it every month, so you've got a bit of a library before you launch it? You're starting to think about all these questions before you just jump into action after action after action. So what is it that you want that positive news channels to look like when a story is going to be getting published? But if you cannot, think about the things that could go wrong. And this is getting into the tips that I want to share today to start to get into that strategic mind. So I'll come back to this in a little while. So just to sum up what we talked about in terms of the difference between plan and strategy, a plan is generally rigid. We stick to one plan. A strategy is more adaptable. So we look at alternative options. And if something goes wrong, we can change and adapt and still make that progress forward. And that involves reflection. It involves a bit of foresight and start to think, start to build those foundations before we jump into taking all that action. It's focused on, plans are more focused on short term, and strategies are more focused on long term. So it's a long term aim with a strategy, it's a short term aim with a plan. So start to think about that long term and then filter into looking at, generally, a plan is about quick win, quick win, quick win, quick win, 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 win as we go through the tasks, where the strategy is more about resilience and the overall result of what we're trying to achieve. So we're not very focused on the quick wins. We want to build something that's resilient. That's just a sum up. I'm going to go back to the comments. I'm going to share the 7 tips that I've got so we can start to get into a bit of a strategic mindset and think about strategy when we're planning our goals towards what it is we want to achieve. Shannon says, getting in shape physically, which keeps my vibrations high mentally. No, it's fantastic. It's good that keeping in shape keeps your vibrations high mentally, and that can really help with the other goals too. It's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that, Shannon. Vijay says, yes, it's like a plan A, plan B, etc. Have alternative ways of achieving instead of just giving up and excusing oneself. Exactly. So you can have multiple plans. Your strategy could be to have plan A, B, and C. That's a strategy. You've got 3 different plans that you can. I'm going to try this one first. If it doesn't work, I'm going to do B. If this doesn't work, I'll try C. But then to stay in that strategic mindset, if A hasn't worked, B hasn't worked, you're now on C, you need to get into that mindset of think, okay, what's option D and E now, just in case this third one doesn't fail as well. It's always having that backup plan. And it's the way I always operate with any of the goals that I have. So if something goes wrong, it's really thinking about, and we're going to the first tip. So the first tip of getting into that strategic mindset is asking those what if questions. And when we sort of talk about what if here, we're talking about in terms of planning and strategy. So what if I was to do this and this happened? What else could happen if I did this? So you're looking at the possible things that could happen if you were to take that action. And generally, just get into this frame, you might say, what if I did this? Nothing. Okay, I'm going to do that action. It's fantastic. But what if I did this and this happened? That's going to affect my business. That's going to affect my goal. That's going to affect my book. It's going to affect my good news channel. So if that happens, what is my next move? What am I going to do next after if that does happen? Before you take that action. So you're thinking about the possibilities that might happen before you start to take your action. But with a plan, you just say, right, I'm going to do this, then this, then this, then this. And then you go, you do it, you do it, you do it, you do it. And then along the way, something happens that you didn't really think or plan for. And it's how do you start to, you can still be adaptable in strategy, but generally, if we haven't thought about it and it's hit us off guard, it can have a huge impact on us. So the first tip is ask those what if questions before you take your action. Paul says, that's fantastic, Karen. It's amazing. Both of your goals and your visions are fantastic. I'm really looking forward to seeing this good news channel, and I'm really looking forward to reading your book, Paul, as well. Sharon, another plan of mine is creating my YouTube channel that I've got the name for, but need to get my bio and more done. I need to focus on this as I love sharing health and wellness. That's fantastic. I remember you sharing that last time we were live, and that's a beautiful YouTube channel. I'm looking forward to watching some of these as well and learning more about health and wellness. So just on that, so you've got a plan to set up a YouTube channel. How do you start to build more of a strategy behind that and start to have that action plan towards your bio, getting more done? What are you hoping to achieve? What's your vision from this YouTube channel? How are you going to impact people? How many people do you want to impact? how many episodes are you going to be publishing each week or each month? How long are those episodes going to be? How are you going to get them out to people? All these questions you're asking now to start to think about how you can start to develop a bit more of a plan that's built on a strategy. I hope this is making sense. If it doesn't, then please shout. Vijay says, while strategizing, we look at sustainability and scalability. We do look at both of those. Those are very two important elements. I don't want to make it too business focused and get too into, because a lot of these are personal goals. But you're right. If you're setting up a business, if you're working in a business, you need to look at sustainability and scalability. Daniel says, I'm loving learning more about strategy. It's going to really help me going forward and become more adaptable through strategy. I have a tendency to look at what could go wrong when planning. And that's good. Having that tendency and looking at what could go wrong. And it's not, and we need to have that, we need to be in a positive frame of mind. Because yes, things could go wrong, but we can't let that give up. That mindset we need to be in is, if it does go wrong, what's going to be my plan of action if it does go wrong? What we're going to have in place? How am I going to, if this does happen and it's going to have a serious effect on my business or my goal or my strategy, what am I going to have in place to be able to counter that or make that next move? So the first tip is those what if questions and getting into that tendency of looking at what could go wrong, but also look at what could go right. So it can be avoided and overcome. Yeah. Frank Adams says, Karen, love your good new channel, vision and goals. It's amazing, Frank. I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm hoping we can all really get behind both Paula and Frank and Shannon as well, and start to help them get these YouTube channels set up, these books written, and really give them that motivation and inspiration that they need, because I cannot wait to see them all in fruition, into reality. Saying, Paula, can't wait to see your book. Everyone's excited to read your story, Paula. It's going to be fantastic. Shannon, that sounds great too. So there's lots of good goals and visions coming. Shannon says, this is so helpful for my plan to my strategy. You just need to start to ask these questions now, but don't let these questions put you off. You're just there, keep that positive mindset that it's not going to happen, but, plan for the worst. What's the saying? Help me out with this, Ian. I always do this. I always go live, but you need to plan for the worst, but hope for the best. That's the same. But keep that positive mindset. Keep faith that it's going to work out. But you are, no matter what goal, what vision you're setting out to achieve, you're going to hit obstacles. You're going to hit challenges. And the more you think about and predict the challenges that are going to come before they happen, or you've asked those what-if questions, the more prepared you're going to be adaptable and manage them when they come your way. I spend a lot of time on what I work on in the preparation part before I do the actions. I literally like to plan everything out, think about all the possibilities that could go wrong, and then have things in place. So if this does happen, what's going to happen? How are you going to manage that? So I'm going to bring a business model. I don't want to go into a business mode here, but it's maybe something that you can do, and you can bring it into your personal development goals. And Vijaya, you might have heard of this. Frank, you might have come across this, but the RAG model. Has anybody come across the RAG model? I didn't plan for this today, just looking at sustainability and scalability that Vijaya mentioned there. And it's actually a good tool to start to build a bit of strategy into your plan. And what RAG stands for is red, amber, green. So when you're setting out your plan, you're starting to identify the risks that could go wrong when you're working towards your vision or your goal. So for example, let's use Karen's Good News channel, Shannon's YouTube channel. What could go wrong? So you ask these questions, what could go wrong? What's the risk if I set up this channel and I get that out there? What potential risks could be there for my new news channel? What could go wrong? And then what you do with the red, amber, green is you start to highlight them as being, if it's a really serious risk that you need to mitigate quite quickly, you mark it as red. If it is a kind of medium level that you can mitigate, you mark it as an orange. And if it's a kind of a little bit of a risk, but it's not serious risk, it's maybe 10% risk of it happening. You can go into different ways in which you calculate the risk percentage, but we're not going to do that much detail for your personal development goals. But if it's not a huge risk, you can mark it as green. That's going to be easy for you to mitigate if it happens. So this is going deep into, if you want to really build a strategy, you can use the RAG model. It's just something that came to mind there. As you start to really think about that, when you ask those what if questions, how much of a risk is that to your goal? and then you can attach the red, amber, or the green color to it. And then you know if it happens, you need to put your time and energy. If it's red, you need to put your time and energy into fixing it and making sure you can mitigate that risk. So it gives you it kind of gives the risks and things that could go wrong in kind of priority in which you need to focus on. Karen says, Shannon, again, food is such an important topic for health. It really is. Vijaya says, strategy, vision, audience base, how to reach the audience is base, scalability, sustainability, marketing your work. What is your investment, financial, time, all those questions. It's thinking about all those questions at the outset, so you are more prepared and adaptable when it comes. So because you're less likely to give up with the strategy. So let's just say you go and you just start to do action after action after action. Someone might come along and actually, I haven't thought about sustainability. I haven't thought about investment in the money. I haven't thought about needing to get my new YouTube channel out there and marketing it. I haven't even considered marketing. I just want to put it out there, and I'm thinking just people are going to be attracted to it. But how do I get my videos to people's screens? Something might come along. So lots of good stuff coming through. Hearts, lots of good things. Sharing with each other, that's fantastic. Shannon says red, amber, green. Frank calls this risk management, so it is risk management, that's the name. So use the red, amber, green to start to calculate your risks. And I'm sure Vijaya, Frank, and the business that you've worked in, the conversations that I've had before, you know that you can go into detail on how you can calculate what that risk is on the vision or your business. So it's very used for business. And then based on that percentage, so you can have it, if it scores under 30%, you can have it as a green. If it scores between 30 or 60, you can have it as an amber. And if it scores above 90, between 30 and 90 or whatever, you can calculate 70, I think it might be. And then from 70 above, you can mark it as red. So yeah, there's a way you can really go into depth and score it. But you can get creative and just think about that as, when you go through your risks and what could go wrong, think about how you could score it yourself. How do you work out whether something's going to be red and needs your time and energy if it does happen, anything that's going to be amber, and anything that's going to be green. But like I said, it's used in business, but I think if you really want to go to strategy, you can use it in your personal goals as well. Amber, green, lots of good stuff coming through. But we just think alike, different avenues to get there. Oh, that's good. Shannon, it's amazing how thoughts come to us when we're together. No, it is. It's good. And this is why I love these discussions, especially our book study sessions as well, because just everyone's perspective sparks new wisdom, new ideas. And yesterday was fantastic again. So thank you, everybody who tuned in yesterday. It was amazing. It was really another good session. Okay, so tip 2. So tip 1 was that what if strategy. Tip 2 is looking at your goal and your vision differently. So what I mean by this is I want us to start to think about how we can create success through preparation. So success can't be learned. One of the things we need to understand is success cannot be learned. We need to experiment. We need to find our own success. We need to have our own definition of what success is in order to get to where we want. So success can never be learned. So one of the tips that I have, the set number 2 tip is create success through your preparation and then have the patience to see the opportunities that present themselves from your preparation. So to give a bit of a visual view of what I mean here, if you start to consider goals and visions, when you generally have conversations with people on visions and goals, they see it as like climbing a mountain. We use the analogy of mountain climbing and how you can get to the top of that mountain and the routes and paths and obstacles that we will encounter on the way up that mountain. But what I'd like us to do in terms of taking a more strategic approach to our goals and our visions is change that analogy and start to look at our vision and our goals as fishing. So we're not climbing a mountain, but we're going fishing. Because with fishing, in order to your goal to catch the fish, it takes a lot of planning, a lot of preparation. You need to do a lot of research in order to find out where the best water is to get the fish that you want. You need to put all the preparation into getting the right equipment, the right boat, the right time of day. You need to really think and put so much time into your plan, your preparation to get everything ready to catch your fish. And this is where I think this is the foundations. We talk about laying the foundations. And I think if we start to take this analogy and have this approach when we start to think about our goals in terms of fishing rather than climbing mountains, we're going to build something that's a lot longer lasting. Because what I mean is you create the success by the preparation that you do in terms of getting your worms, your maggots, whatever you use, getting your fishing equipment, getting your boat, going out the right time of day, doing your research, all that preparation. Then you go out there And then you need to have that patience with all your preparation and equipment to be ready to pull in those opportunities when you feel them bite. So for me, if you just change that way in which you look at your vision and think about fishing and trying to catch fish, sometimes you're going to catch big fish, sometimes you're going to get little fish, and you need that patience to wait. It takes, if you've ever done fishing before, you can really take some time to think about, it really takes time and patience to sit there and wait for those fish to come and to bite. So change that perspective from climbing a mountain to fishing. So you put all and create your success in your preparation, and you patiently wait for those opportunities to come on all the tools and everything you have in place, and you reel them in. So it's just a different angle to take. So tip 2 is create your success in your preparation. So your success is going to become a part of your preparation. And enjoy the preparation, enjoy the plan, enjoy the preparation. It's one of the best parts because you start to think, it starts to become real. It's absolutely fantastic. Get in deep into your preparation. And then the more preparation you do, when you do come to take action, your action will just flow. And that's when you take that flow and action, you get into that natural state of flow, you wait, you enjoy having a beer with your fishing rod, and then when that bite comes in, you pull it in, you reel it in because you've done all that preparation to catch that fish. So just take that different approach. So create your success in your preparation and have the patience to seize the opportunities that present themselves. That's tip 2. Tip 3, so one of the things that we can start to struggle with strategy is strategy takes time. And if you're putting time in preparation and strategy and you want to build something that's long lasting, that's resilient, that's going to be successful to your definition of success, then you're not going to see quick wins. You're not going to see quick results. And that's when people are building something resilient, they give up quite easily because they're not seeing the benefits at this moment in time. So when you think about your resilience, when you think about your planning, one of the tips that you can do is create yourself a success jar. I know this has been shared before, but it's very, very important to bring a success jar into your, and doesn't have to be a success jar, it could be a success board or a success wall. So when you do get those little fish, when you're doing your strategy, or the big fish that come along, you're taking note of the achievement that you've made, and you're always going back to your jar as your jar fills up. So that helps you keep you motivated and in that spirit of wanting to continue with what it is you're setting out to achieve. So just capture your achievements on the way and put them in a success jar. With a plan, when we take an action after action after action, we can get quick win, quick win, quick win, quick win. So that keeps us motivated and going, but then what we build might never last. And I say this to everybody who's in the Coaching Minds close circle in terms of our, the vision of Coaching Minds and what we're building here at Coaching Minds. We've spent so much time in preparation in what we're doing, and we're not seeing very quick wins, but it doesn't matter because our overall aim is to impact as many people as we can through our coaching. And what you can see in the coaching world is, you might have a one-hit wonder coach that has a perfect book, but that's all he prepares and that's all he has. He's spent all his time just on one book, and then that's it. They disappear off the surface of the earth. Or they might create one good course and they've put all that time and they've had quick wins on that. So they can get to success quickly, but it doesn't last. When they've got there, if they fall and it doesn't last, they built that tower and they've got all those wins. So this is about creating a success jar, because when we start to take strategy, we start to think long term. There's a lot more challenges, frustration in the preparation than just when we start to take action after action after action and we don't see quick results. So just consistency falls into this. I'm not going to go deep into consistency, but help with a success jar or achievement board or achievement wall, wherever you want to capture your achievements, and keep them at the forefront of what you do, where you work in your space, so you can remind yourself that you are achieving things and you're making those progress, as small as they are. So I'm just going to go back to the comments before that. So that's tip 3. I've got 4 more tips. I'll be a bit more quick on the other tips. So we're in time. And we've got a meeting as well coming up. Paul, you were too fast to take notes. Please repeat tip 2. Sorry. So tip 2 is create success in your preparation, but have the patience to seize your opportunities. I'm going to watch it again to take notes. Sorry, I'm talking very quick. I'll slow down a little bit. Paul Adams says, I think listening to people who validate your assets helps too. I don't realize that everything I say is so full of wisdom until someone points it out to me. Now that can help. And I think that's what really benefits us here in Coaching Minds, is we're surrounded by open-minded people that are there to help support and lift each other up. And one thing we have to be careful with that, and I'm saying this to all of us, is I think when we're getting there as well, we're creating that space where we can be open and honest. Because I feel sometimes we can just support people and be polite and push people without being fully honest because we're scared to hurt that other person's feelings, or we don't know how to. And we talked about this yesterday in the book club on how to give feedback. But it's so beneficial for us to give honest feedback in a constructive way, because that's what's going to help us grow. It's no good, and we've talked about this before as well, it's no good just having people around us that are saying, that's great, that's good, that's good, that's good. We need people that are going to challenge the way we think and change our perspective, because that's where the biggest growth is going to come. So Karen says, yep, you are amazing, Paula. You need reassurance sometimes, not validation, just your reassurance we are doing the right thing. Yeah, that's beautifully put, Karen. I think that kind of sums up, it's reassurance that we need to give and not validation, because we need to have that self-validation that what we're doing is right, because that's what's going to help us really thrive. And that comes from the self-confidence that we have within us. So that's tip 3. Tip 4 is, so I've done that one, sorry, I'm just going through my list, I've jumped across. Okay, so tip 4 is learn from others, but follow your own path. One of the things we can do when we get into planning mode is we can start to follow somebody else's plan. So we've seen somebody else execute a plan and it worked for them, that we imitate it. So we're thinking, this works for this person, so I'm going to do the same. And one of the examples I like to use is when I first started off into coaching, into motivational speaking, into personal development, I was told by so many people to set up a YouTube channel. YouTube channel is the right way to go. Set up a YouTube channel. And I haven't set up a YouTube. We've got one for Coaching Minds, but that's just to use in this space. We don't do any series through there. But for me, that didn't work. I didn't want to imitate someone else's plan. I didn't want to do a YouTube channel. It wasn't me, because I felt like when I record videos, it's really hard to, I don't know, I put a lot of pressure on myself and I have to re-record. And I wanted people to see that I'm authentic, that I'm organic. And the best way to do that is by live, because there's a little bit of plan and preparation, but I don't know what you're going to comment. I'm going to engage with you. I don't know what's going to be said. I don't know how the flow of the session is going to go. And I think through live sessions is what allows you to put your true and authentic personality through. So that's an example for me, is you take, so we've got the YouTube channel, so we kind of used YouTube channel works, but we've done it in a different way. So we're not imitating other people's plans, we're following our own path. And I always like to use the quote of Bruce Lee when it comes to this, and it's take what is useful, discard what is useless, and add a little bit of your own. And that really helps with learning strategy as well. So when you start to learn the information and learn ways in which to do things when you're doing what you're doing, think, and this will come on to the tip 5, think about what it is that you're learning. Take what is really useful to you now, get rid of what is not useful to you right now, and then add a little bit of your own, put a little bit of creativity into it. And that's what's going to help you grow and create something new. And this moves on to tip 5. And tip 5 is be curious and start to get into an inquisitive mind with everything that is presented to you. So get into that curious mode of always asking questions. And Priya, Adele, Daniel, you probably know it's a bit annoying at first, but when you guys come to me with an idea, when you come to me with some feedback, I'm always constantly asking you question after question after question. And it's not to challenge you, it's just to get as much information as possible from your understanding and from what it is you're sharing and the benefits of that idea, or the benefits, or whether or not we should take that feedback and what the feedback actually means. So when you're on your go, when you're setting something up, whatever information is presented your way, get into that flow, that habit of asking questions, being curious, finding out more information. We can always tend to hold back from asking questions. Does that make sense? Because when we're in that curious and inquisitive mind too, we build relationships. So, for example, if someone gives an idea and you don't really resonate with the idea, it's not great to tell that person that's not a good idea, or that's a crap idea, or that's not going to work. How do you ask questions about the idea that they have to see their full understanding? So what does this mean for the business? How's that going to impact people? What's going to be the result of that? What risks are there associated with that idea? Asking these questions is going to help them come to their answer, and then it's going to allow you as well, because they might have so you might think that's a bad idea, but then when they give you answer after answer after answer, actually that's a really good idea because it's going to have this impact. There's no risks associated. Let's do it. So having that inquisitive mind when people bring ideas to you, or information or learning, will help you get more from what's being shared. So Karen says the way you've done it is amazing, because when you're live, there is nowhere to hide, and you have to be totally authentic being. So you do. It forces you to be your true and full authentic self. There's nowhere to hide. And I mess up, and I'm fine to mess up. I just messed up again today thinking about a quote that I couldn't get out, but I don't mind. This is me, and I'm here to give you what I can in terms of tips for your growth, and I want to be authentic with it. I don't want to try and have a script that I memorize. I mean, for when you're learning, you're teaching and you're not coaching, then it's good to have that script and videos that are going to be there for. So for example, the certification course, that's needed, but there is the live sessions behind that as well. So I think, being authentic, finding ways to be authentic self, putting yourself out of your comfort zone works. So Daniel says, I love the way you do that, Paul. And that's what we need to all do. Get into that mind of always asking questions. And it's the way we ask questions as well. So we need to not come across, it's the tone that we deliver our questions, the body language in which we deliver them. So we're not coming across too abrupt or too challenging. We need to do it in a way that's going to be constructive and really start to help people. So just ask those questions. Karen says, totally, Paul, why would you negative talk anyone? It might be the start of an amazing idea. Exactly. Exactly. And then together you with that question, when people bring ideas or suggestions to you, whether it's in business, whether it's in your personal life, asking those questions, you come to an answer and a result, a solution, a next plan of action together. Because it might turn out to be the best idea, or it might turn out to be the worst idea. But until you ask those questions, so you could ask what impacts are going to have. Oh, there's this huge risk. Okay, because there's that huge risk, we're going to have to let that go. We can't take that risk right now. Or it's going to impact me in this negative way, or it might offend this person if we do this. It might offend someone. It might do this. Okay, then let's not do that. So asking those questions helps you come to that session together. It really helps you come to that decision together. So that's tip 5. Tip 6 is a bit of a random one, but I think it really helps, and it's start to play strategic games. So start to play a game that's strategic. For example, chess, drafts, or checkers, depending on where you are. Scrabble. Start to play strategic games because it gets you in that flow of thinking strategically. If you start to play chess and start to learn and understand chess, you understand that every move you make changes the board, changes the game. So, you're always thinking 3 steps. If I move this piece here, they can move this piece here. If they take that, what does that mean for me? And it gets you into that flow of thinking in a strategic way. So start to pick up, you can do it online, there's free apps, play with your partner, your friends, but just try and do it once a week, get into that mode of playing a strategic game that gets you thinking. Because just practicing and training your brain in that way will help you to think that way when it comes to your visions and your goals. So tip 6 is to start to play strategic games. And then finally, tip 7 is get into that flow. So strategy is a flow. And it comes from that inquisitive mind and being curious. It's about being in a flow and constantly asking those questions and trying to be 3 steps ahead of your own actions. So get into that flow mindset of, okay, and that adaptable mindset. So you're asking questions, you're open to anything that's thrown your way, and you're going to deal with it when it hits you, but you've planned for the possible things that are going to be thrown your way. So that's tip 7. So those are 7 tips. Backgammon, Paula, is another one. That's one I want to learn. So I don't know how to play backgammon, but it's one that I've always wanted to learn to play. But I've just never had or been around anyone that has had that curiosity to want to learn as well. And unfortunately, with games like that, you need 2 people. So actually, I might try and learn and take my own advice today and download a backgammon app. There's probably a backgammon app now that I can start to learn on. And then I can just study on the internet on how to play. But get into a strategic game. It can really help you start to think more strategically. So those are the 7 tips. I'll type these 7 tips up and I'll put them in the community so you've got them on how you can build a strategy into your plan. If there's any questions, ask them now. We've got 5 minutes. I'm happy to answer any questions. I know we've covered a lot today, and it's not the easiest topic to talk about or to discuss in terms of moving from a plan to a strategy, but the aim of today is just to get everybody to think about the long-term result and not quick wins. Quick wins can be good to get us motivated and started, but we need to build something that's resilient and that's going to last. And it's just shifting that mindset from thinking about goals as climbing a mountain to thinking about goals in terms of fishing and putting a lot of time into that preparation. Shannon says, awesome, Paul, especially since pandemic, I'm by myself more often. I love to learn chess. And maybe we can do that. Maybe we can have I don't want to take everything away. I know we're focused on personal development and growth, but maybe we could have an online quick session on teaching people the rules of chess. But we can go away. There's apps out there. Paula says we played on our anniversary. Backgammon was that? Maybe Paula and maybe we can connect together and maybe I can teach Shannon how to play chess and Paula and Frank, you can teach me how to play backgammon. Thank you, Paul. I didn't take notes today, and this think with everything we do is huge. Thank you, Shannon. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being here. You guys make this session, and your input and your engagement and sharing your personal experiences and your insights is what makes the flow of this session go so nicely. So thank you so much. Paul says, what's your favorite color? So my favorite color is orange, really. I just like the vibe that orange gives. Such a positive vibe. Shannon says, thank you. Oh, sorry, I've already pulled that up. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you. Dell says, with you, I'll learn that. I'm complete beginner, but I'm open. And it takes time, but it's really good. It's, look, chess is one of those that you learn so much more just by playing. So as soon as you learn what piece can move where, you just play, practice, and you start to understand different strategies and different moves. And that helps build up on your strategic thinking. And I'm sure backgammon does the same. Drafts and checkers does the same for anybody who plays drafts and checkers. There's a little bit less strategy in there, but they're all good games. But this is just to help you get into that flow and think about in a way that is strategic. Sorry, Charmaine. Is Charmaine here? I haven't seen any of the comments come through, Charmaine. Charmaine, if you're here, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Vijay says, great tips to use in relationships. Thanks, Paul. Wonderful session. Thank you, Vijay, for your wisdom and everything you shared on strategy as well. It's fantastic. Paul says, I don't want to learn from someone who presents like they know it all or have it all figured out, like all or nothing learning. And ironically, people who do that are the fixed mindset. Is it Socrates or Aristotle? Socrates or Aristotle says, you you come to that level of understanding when you learn that you understand nothing. Or I think the correct quote is, true knowledge comes from knowing that you know nothing. And it's in that fixed mind state of constant to learn and constantly to grow. Count me in to need to learn. So how about instead of having an extra session, I'm looking to Daniel here, and I'll join Daniel and we can have it. Maybe we can do talk about games in the Humming Nest. We can look at learning how to play chess and how to play backgammon. People can bring their different expertise, and we can have just a bit of a discussion in the Humming Nest on how we can play these games and what the rules are and what works for us. That might be a good idea instead of having another session as well. Cool, Adele. Shannon says, it's funny in the different phases of our life what we're open to, as I used to have no interest in chess. My son used to play. And we go through that. It's, where we're at in terms of our learning, our development, what we need in life right now, what we have time to spend on. Some of us might not have time to learn chess and how to play chess, if we've got other priorities. So yeah, it's things come to us when we need them, I think. And if you're interested, so if you've got a plan, you've got a strategy, you're setting sail and you're doing everything that you want and it's working for you, then continue doing what you're doing. But if you're stuck with a plan and you don't know how to plan that far ahead, then take these strategy tips from today and start to think about things that could help. Daniel says, games night, breakout rooms to play each other. That'd be good. Yeah, we could have maybe a chess room, a backgammon room, Scrabble room, and look at how we can do that online and play each other. It sounds like a good idea, Daniel. We'll have an online games night for the Humming Nest. Sorry, Shami's not here. I'm just laughing at myself because she doesn't like the color orange. So I didn't know she didn't like the color orange, but no, for me, I love the vibes that it has. It's really vibrant color, and it's just, I think it's a happy color. Cool. Okay, I'm gonna let you guys go. I'll see a few of you in a couple of minutes in our get together meeting for the team. And everyone else, thank you for being here. It's been wonderful to engage with you all, and I really enjoy these sessions, and I'm looking forward to catching up to you whenever we connect. So speak to you soon. Thank you so much, and yeah, see you. Have a great week ahead.